Hello and welcome to our 10 to 1 with Carol Lewis. She's the Deputy Property Editor at the Times and Sunday Times. Hi Carol, how are you?
Hello, hi.
So it's been a big year for you, big change at the Times and Sunday Times, and then obviously lockdown kicked off. Can you just talk me through really quickly the new structure that you guys have on the desk, and then can you tell me about how things have changed since you've been working from home?
Yes, so now we have a merged department. So I write for both the Times and Sunday Times. On the department, there are 8 of us. We're a mixture of Sunday Times and Times, and now we all write for both.
Mm-hmm.
Helen Davis is the editor. I'm the deputy editor. Melissa York is the assistant editor. And then we have Hugh Graham, Martina Lees, Emmanuel Midlow, and Victoria Braninsky. Oh,
Okay.
and we have Gina Burrows as well.
She's your interiors editor.
Yes, that's right.
Right. So how have things, we spoke to Helen just after lockdown kicked off, actually. How did things change for your pages? Did you lose any pages? Are you back up now? What's the deal?
So what happened was, we write for 2 property sections, bricks and mortar in the Times and home on the Sunday Times. Bricks and mortar still comes out online on Fridays, but the big change is the print edition is on Saturdays. It comes in the weekend print edition now.
Okay.
Whereas before it was its own standalone project, now it's part of the weekend section.
And has that changed the type of things that you're covering with the new editor in the mix, or are you doing exactly the same kind of thing you were doing before?
Are we talking about with the new editor or with the lockdown?
No, I meant the new editor, i.e. of weekend. So you've got Helen and then you've got a weekend editor. Yeah.
Yes, probably has slightly. I think we're very much mindful that it has to look glamorous.
Right.
So pictorially led a lot more. Perhaps the properties are a little more high end, but we're still looking at all the tough issues like what's happening in the property market now that it's opening up in England, not yet in Wales or Scotland. So there's still some of the tougher issues in there. What's different is we have less space in print. So we have, in both editions, we have 6 to 8 pages.
And how's that affected then the stories that you're doing? Does it mean you've got less room for images and you're squeezing the words on? Has it affected the way that PRs need to pitch ideas to you, or are you adapting the stories to make it work?
There are fewer stories in print, but what's really good is because we're going digital first, like properly a whole day before it comes out in print, we do a lot of extra online only stories.
Okay.
And actually those are super important. I think online has become much more important during lockdown because people can't get out and buy the paper. So,
have you seen a big rise in traffic?
Online, yes, huge rise in traffic online. So we're much keener to put things up online and to put quite a lot up online. Brilliant. So bricks and mortar is pretty chunky online. If you're an online reader, I don't think you would have noticed any difference that lockdown started in terms of how many stories there are or the types of stories. But then not all those stories are in the print edition on Saturday.
Sure.
So on the Sunday Times, we have amalgamated with travel. So we are a standalone supplement, which is home and travel. And again, that's 6 to 8 pages.
Brilliant.
And in terms of your previous question of whether we have changed some of the sections and things we write about, we have since lockdown.
How's it changed?
So we have a new section in Bricks called Wish You Lived Here. And that can be a type of property, such as we've done hoof houses, we've done castles. It could also be a location, like Monaco or the Cotswolds, or it can be a type of property or a type of thing like a house with a garden or near a park or next to the sea. so we're adapting it as we go. We've dropped Home of the Week for now, but we are still very much doing in the home section in Sunday Times, doing the weekly property sort of lustworthy homes to look for.
Okay.
And there's a big emphasis on property prices and what's happening in the market. I know we've always done that, but at the moment it's one of the best read things in the paper overall.
Wow. Gosh.
Property values. Everybody is keen to know what's happened to property prices since the market froze.
Yeah. And I know it's a complicated issue with lots of different surveys from different people.
Should I sell? Should I buy? Is now a unique opportunity to get a bargain. Everyone wants to know that. So it's almost like an insatiable desire for anything to do with what's happening in the marketplace. And that's been the last 3 weeks. And I think it's going to go on for another week or two at least, if not longer. And from every angle, they want to know about gesundering. They want to know about charging more if they have a garden. It's almost everything on both papers. So that's a strong focus at the moment.
Okie doke. Weekly timing. So you've got 2 sections, one with different release dates. How do you organise your commissioning? Do you have a weekly meeting? What happens?
We go to press on Wednesday for Bricks in the Times, and we go to press on Friday for Home in the Sunday Times. And then we meet online. We do Google Hangouts. Google Hangouts every morning at 10:30, and our Monday one is the key one where we decide. We then have the flat plans. We know what pages there are. We decide what goes where.
Mm-hmm.
But it's best to pitch an idea before that. I would say at least, the Wednesday before.
Okie doke. And how do people connect with you best? Have you changed the way that you talk to PRs during lockdown? We know we have spoken to some journos that are doing many more phone calls, but are you still about email, or do you actually take virtual meetings?
Oh, I haven't done virtual meetings with PRs. Definitely phone calls and email.
Yeah.
We're all working from home, so email seems to work best.
How's best to get your attention with an email? Do you like a snappy subject line and a short pitch, or do you mind pictures? What's the way?
Yeah, snappy and short and to the point. That's the. I've got a pet hate about highlighting and capital letters everywhere as well.
Okay. Are there any other things that you hate that PRs do?
I wouldn't say hate, but there is one thing that I think annoys us all, is if we run a story on something very specific, and then everyone piles in with, oh, I've got this and I've got this. I think, well, if I've covered it once, I'm not going to be covering that for a while. But the exception at the moment, of course, is
Market Watch stuff.
Yeah, Market Watch stuff. I should also say we all write for both sections, but we all write for news as well.
Right.
And there's a lot of interest in news, both in business news and in straight news for property stories at the moment. For deals, for personal stories, for unusual houses, for famous people who owned houses. There's a lot of interest on the news section.
Right.
So we are getting more running in the news section as well. So at the moment, property is having its time.
So perhaps a PR who would normally be trying to access the news desk could come to you with a story if it was property related.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
How else has coverage shifted? Because I know when we spoke to Helen at the beginning of lockdown, it was very much about gardening and interiors and what you can get doing while lockdown is on. The market's now opened again. Are you still holding up more interiors things, or have you moved away much more towards the newsy angles?
Moved away slightly, but still a strong focus on gardening and interiors. Okay. Definitely. That has stayed. We're just balancing it more. I think what happened initially as well is we took the sort of emphasis of properties for sale appearing. So in the Sunday Times, normally when you open that first spread, it had, before all this happened, lots of pictures of properties for sale. We went off that initially when the market froze.
Mm-hmm.
Then we came back slowly with lots of properties where you could do virtual tours and video tours, and that's quite important now. If there is a property that we're to feature, we prefer it to have a video or virtual tour attached. That's going to be a lot more important now. But gradually we're kind of coming back towards what we were, but we're just not totally there yet. And also we have Scottish editions for both sections, and at the moment in the Times we're not having a separate Scottish edition. We're putting separate Scottish coverage up online, but when the market opens back up, I think there'll be a push for a lot more separate Scottish stuff for that. And Wales isn't open yet, their property market's not open yet either.
Okay, so if our PRs want to be pitching for that, they need to be on the pulse of when that's going to happen and be ahead of time, I assume, coming to you with ideas.
Yes, and we have, I should have mentioned actually, we have Gabriella Bennett, who's the property correspondent in Scotland. She's based up in our Glasgow office, and she does all the specialist Scottish property stories. Brilliant.
Last question. Overseas property, your new feature that you were talking about, sorry, I forgot what it was called. If You Lived Here.
Yeah, Wish You Lived Here.
Wished You Lived Here, sorry. Is that a replacement for overseas content at the moment, or are you still doing overseas despite not being
yes, see, that's the thing. So we've been doing it occasionally in the Wish You Lived Here, and we've got a lovely one coming up about chateaus. But from this week, actually from Sunday, I'm doing a big piece in the Sunday Times on international property markets, because the property portals are reporting huge spikes in British people looking at foreign property. So it could be lockdown dreaming. So I've been calling around and finding out whether these are serious buyers, and it turns out estate agents have got people queued up ready to go viewing.
Wow.
So now that the borders are starting to open in the next week or two, we're going to start reporting back on it, because people will be able to go out there, and hopefully we'll have to quarantine when they come back.
Yes, fingers crossed. Well, thank you so much for your time, Carol. I really appreciate it.
That's all right. Thank you.